On a cold, snowy night in February of 2004, a young woman's car suddenly slammed into a snowbank on a quiet, isolated road deep in rural New Hampshire. The scene was eerily still. No lights, no sounds, just the wind whispering through the trees. A school bus driver saw her standing there, calm, alone, refusing his offer of help. He was worried, so he called 911 immediately. But when police arrived just 10 minutes later, she was gone. No footprints in the fresh snow, no phone calls made or received, no trace of where she went. Her name was Maura Murray, and shockingly, she's never been seen since. Welcome to the Unseen Case, a channel dedicated to mysteries that defy explanation. I'm your narrator, and today, we're diving deep into one of America's most haunting disappearances. Over the next 12 minutes, we'll carefully reconstruct the final hours of Maura Murray, a bright, ordinary young woman who vanished without warning. We'll examine the strange clues left behind in her car, explore the unsettling gaps in the timeline, and confront the chilling truth that, even after 20 years, no one knows what really happened. Maura Murray was 21 years old, a bright, quiet nursing student at the University of Massachusetts. Friends remember her as deeply loyal, organized, and thoughtful. She came from a military family and grew up with discipline. But in the weeks leading up to her disappearance, something changed. She canceled shifts at the hospital. She argued more with her boyfriend, and she seemed distracted, almost like she was carrying a secret she couldn't share. On February 9th, 2004, Maura sent an email to her professors claiming there was a death in the family, but there wasn't. Her father was alive. Her sister was fine. In fact, just hours before her drive, she'd spoken to her family, calmly, normally. So why lie? That same day, she withdrew $300 in cash, packed a small duffel bag, and left campus without telling anyone where she was going or why. Her destination? Unknown. But investigators later found she'd been researching New Hampshire's White Mountains online. She'd even printed out pages from a book called Not Without Peril, a true story about hikers who vanished in those very woods. Was this a coincidence? Or was Maura planning something even her closest friends never saw coming? At 7:27 p.m. on February 9th, Maura's black Saturn sedan veered off Route 112 near Haverhill, New Hampshire. The road was icy, snow-covered, and nearly empty. Her car slammed into a snowbank hard enough to deploy the airbags. Moments later, a local school bus driver named Butch Atwood saw her standing beside the vehicle. She appeared shaken, but unhurt. Atwood pulled over and offered to call for help, but Maura refused. She told him, "No, I already called AAA." Concerned, Atwood drove a short distance down the road and called 911 anyway. He described her as calm, polite, and determined to handle it alone. He never saw her again. 10 minutes after Atwood's call, police arrived. The car was empty, the ignition was off, the keys were missing, but inside they found strange items: 2 open bottles of wine, a folded map highlighting Vermont, $500 in cash, and that photocopied chapter from Not Without Peril. Most disturbing of all, the snow around the car was completely undisturbed. Not a single footprint led away. How could a young woman vanish in 10 minutes on a snowy road with no houses nearby? No tire tracks, no witnesses, no phone signal. It was as if the earth swallowed her whole. Search teams scoured the woods for days. Helicopters circled the mountains. Cadaver dogs tracked every possible trail. Volunteers combed through ravines and frozen streams. Yet they found nothing. No clothing, no blood, no personal items. Even Maura's cell phone never connected to a tower after that night. The silence was absolute. For a case with so many eyes on it, the lack of evidence was almost supernatural. And as the weeks turned into months, then years, hope faded, but the questions only grew louder. So what happened to Maura Murray? Over the years, 3 main theories have emerged. The first, she planned to disappear. She was stressed, overwhelmed, and may have wanted to start a new life. After all, she withdrew cash, packed a bag, and lied about her plans. But if she wanted to vanish, why leave her ID, her credit cards, and $500 in the car? Why drive to a remote, freezing location with no plan, no supplies, and no destination? The second theory, foul play. Locals reported seeing strange vehicles in the area that night. Some believe she was abducted in those 10 minutes between Atwood's call and police arrival. But investigators found no evidence, no tire marks, no struggle, no DNA. And in 20 years, not one credible suspect has emerged. The FBI reviewed the case quietly but never classified it as a crime. Without a body, without a witness, it remains a ghost story with no ending. The third theory is the most tragic. Maura panicked, ran into the freezing woods, and succumbed to exposure. The temperature that night was below freezing, and she wasn't dressed for hiking. But search teams covered every square mile. Cadaver dogs found nothing. And in 2 decades, not a single bone, shoe, or belonging has surfaced. Even the rivers were dragged. The forests were mapped by drone. Yet nature gave up no secrets. Maura's case endures because it defies logic. She didn't just disappear. She vanished in plain sight, in a place with nowhere to hide. No digital trail, no body, no goodbye. It reminds us how fragile our sense of safety really is, and how easily someone can slip through the cracks of the modern world. Online, thousands still search for answers, analyzing maps, phone logs, and old police reports. But the truth remains buried under snow, time, and silence. So what do you think happened to Maura Murray? Did she walk away, or was she taken? Drop your theory in the comments. I read everyone. If you want more deep dives into unsolved mysteries, hit subscribe and tap the bell. Your support helps bring these forgotten stories back into the light. What makes Maura's case so haunting isn't just the mystery, it's how ordinary she was. She wasn't famous, she wasn't reckless, she was a student, a daughter, a sister. And yet, in one quiet night, she became a question mark in American history. Her family still waits for answers, her friends still wonder. And every winter, when the snow falls on Route 112, the question returns. Where did she go? Some say she boarded a bus to Canada. Others believe she lives under a new name in Vermont. A few even claim to have seen her, in a cafe, at a train station, always just out of reach. But without proof, these remain whispers in the wind. The only certainty is this. On February 9th, 2004, Maura Murray stepped out of her car and out of our world. Next week on The Unseen Case, we travel to Australia to unravel the mystery of the Somerton man, a well-dressed stranger found dead on a beach in 1948. In his pocket, a tiny scrap of paper with the words, Tamam Shud, Persian for ended or finished. Sewn into his trousers, A coded message that has defied decryption for over 70 years. Who was he? And why did someone go to such lengths to erase his identity? Until then, stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, sometimes the most ordinary lives hide the deepest secrets. Thanks for watching The Unseen Case.